your organization. But you will not be able to transform your organization if you have not arrived at the place of self-belief that I can. Okay? Then, let me show you something. Look at these two pictures very, very, very well. Okay? Look at them very, very well. Can you see them? Can you see them at the back?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you know what? Do you know that this is the same place? Just many years apart. The same place in Dubai. You see those three buildings there? They're here, right here. The same place. Many years apart. So, how did we get there? Listen, land has no mind of its own. A piece of land cannot decide, I want to be this. So this land could not decide what it wanted to be. But the value of land is determined by the location and what is put on it. So in the same way, your value is determined by your environment and what you put on your canvas. That's your mind. If you constantly entertain negativity, it will be difficult for you to have self-belief. And it will be difficult for you to be a great leader. If your default answer for anything is that it's impossible, you will never have the self-belief required, and you will not be able to inspire anybody. So let's look at the canvas. I call the 3 cities of personal development. And I deliberately spelled that way because you'll see it now. Number 1, what you put on the canvas of your mind. That is what determines your capacity. What are you putting in your mind? You see, during the Great Depression, 23,000 people committed suicide in one day. 1,600 banks closed down in 1 year. 12,000 people were laid off every day during the Depression. And all of them blamed it on the economy. But do you know, during the same period, that is when Hewlett-Packard was started. During the same period, that is when Sheraton Hotels was formed. That is when Duracell batteries were invented. That is when Walt Disney was started. That is when KFC was started. During the same time that 23,000 people committed suicide because of the economy. What was the difference? Capacity. Capacity will determine how you view things that you are seeing. Let me give you an example on what capacity can do for you. A lot of times, people complain, about targets they have been given and all that. Listen, there's nothing wrong with the target. It's always about your capacity. And as long as you focus on the targets, you are subscribing to the school of mediocrity. Don't focus on the targets. Focus on your capacity. You know, there's a car called the Bugatti, $2.5 million. That's expensive under normal conditions. But I did a study when Bill Gates was worth $86 billion. And I realized the guy would buy 34,400 Bugattis. And that is 0.0003% of his wealth. To him, do you think that's expensive? So let me categorically state, nothing is expensive. Build your capacity. Are you hearing? Your capacity. How many of you know things that at one time in your life, you thought they were expensive? Then after you could buy them without thinking. What changed? Capacity. So many times we are complaining about the wrong things. Oh, the targets. All that. Please, build your capacity. What is in your canvas? When I was going through stuff, let me tell you about capacity. I was going through stuff, I owed money, I was in a bad place. Then I'd gone from America, I was working in Nigeria, I was doing consulting for the government. Invested a lot of money, had a staff strength of 80 people. And then everything came down. Why? Because when it was time for me to get paid, man, the governors that I thought were my friends were no more picking my calls. Nobody was listening to me anymore. So I was frustrated. I had owed some money. So I went to meet a very wealthy businessman that I knew in Nigeria. I said, please help me. I said, this is the situation. They owe me this amount of money. He said, no problem. I'll call the governor. He picked his phone. As he was about to call, he said, what was the arrangement you had with the governor? I said, there was no arrangement, sir. He laughed. He said, my friend, you're in Nigeria. You're no more in America. You think they'll pay you that kind of money without an arrangement? I went to meet somebody else. It was the same result. They laughed at me. So I decided I need divine intervention. So I went to meet a bishop. And he was worse than all of them put together. So I said, you know what? I'm out of here. By that time, my left hand was shaking like this. My left face was twitching. I'm told that's how people behave before they die. I said, so I said, if I die, my wife is a very beautiful girl. Eh? I said, if I die, there's some idiot to marry my wife. So a friend of mine in Kilifi, he knew what I was going through. He said, please, just come over and just come and rest. So I came to Kenya to rest and recover. Is somebody hearing me? Do you know how much I lost? No, before I tell you how much I lost, let me tell you what inspired me to fight back. Donald Trump. Because I had read all his books. And Donald Trump was $9 billion in debt. Actually, $9.6 billion in debt. You can read it if you read his book, How to Be Rich. And he talks about it. $9 billion in debt. That's for his business. $1 billion in personal debt. And he said, I'm coming back. And he came back. Is somebody hearing me? So I realized that capacity is what determines if you stay down or come up. I lost $6.3 million. But when I realized somebody lost $9 billion and came back, those are the people I should listen to, not the person who lost 100,000 shillings and is crying. Because if I listen to the person that is crying after losing 100,000 shillings, I'm finished. There's no hope. Are you hearing me? So capacity. What are you putting in your mind? You need to make sure that your mind is current. You need to make sure, and I began to read. In the early days, every book I read had the word millionaire on the cover. The Millionaire's Notebook by Stephen Scott. How to think like a millionaire. The millionaire. Because when you have a heart problem, you don't go and see a gynecologist. You see the person who can fix you. So tell the person next to you, what are you doing about your capacity? So I decided, I want to be a global champion, not a local champion. So I read 4 books every month. I'm reading something, like 2-3 books at the same time. Besides any financial thing online, I'm seeing Fortune, Forbes. I want to be in touch. My mind must be healthy for my life to be healthy. somebody hearing me today? Yes. That's what I do. I said there's no advantage in being the most learned among the ignorant. No advantage in being the brightest among fools. I said, when I stand in the midst of intelligent people, I want them to say, wow, you're a genius. And so I decided to build my capacity. A lot of times, we don't develop our minds and we wonder why the world has left us. Because we're not developing our minds. All right. So, what you put on your mind, these are the things. Then, how do you see yourself in the mirror? That's audacity. So, capacity, there's audacity. You know, I would drive around, and I remember I would read, how do you see yourself in your mirror? In the mirror. You can look at yourself in the mirror. There's a picture that was going online sometime. A cat looked in the mirror, and when it looked in the mirror, it saw a lion. Now, that is better than a lion looking in the mirror and seeing a cat. You understand what I'm saying? You know, the way you see yourself, the way I see myself is this. Because of the capacity I have built on my inside, there's nothing you bring my way that I will not overcome. Because of the capacity. And that's why it's important to build capacity, because it affects the way you see yourself. I've had the privilege of speaking at the highest levels of the United Nations. I've had the privilege of consulting for presidents. But you know, before any president, there was a time when I was so poor that the poor called me poor. Now, and that's not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be when people who are certified poor look at you every day and say, damn, Wale is poor, man. That's where I was. I was selling books at Uhuru Park. You know, years ago when I came, I was selling books at Uhuru Park. I've been chased by Kanjo. Are you hearing me? I've been chased by Sitka. So many years ago, well, when Kidero was governor, I was going in for a meeting with him, and they took me through a VIP entrance, and one of those guys was saluting. So I was thinking, maybe this is even the fool that chased me the other time, you know? But capacity will alter the way you see yourself. It will. There's no reason. I don't believe in number two. I believe in number one, because nobody remembers number two. I hear it. So when the MD said that you people searched and they said Wale was number one, I was happy because it is confirming my vision. When the American software company Oracle were having a global conference, and you know, I got an invitation. They wanted me to come and speak on innovation. Now, you have to understand, this is a global company that's driving innovation in software. So when I finished speaking and I finished with them, I now asked them, I said, please, how did you find my name? I am a village boy. My village is so small, you can run through my village in 30 seconds. It is so remote, planes don't fly over. You understand what I'm saying? How did you find me? They said, we did our due diligence. Everywhere we checked, your name came up as number one. I'm allergic to mediocrity. That's because I've built the capacity so I can be audacious. Are you hearing me? If you have not built capacity, you will lack audacity. And people are not going to respect you if you are not audacious. You know, history belongs to the audacious. All those leaders we talked about were audacious people. And then, thirdly, what price are you ready to pay for where you want to be? Tenacity. One of the things that happens with success is that people, the more visible you become, the more exposed you are to criticism. One of my mentors taught me many years ago. He said, if you are going to succeed, you must have a deaf ear to that. If you don't want people to talk about you badly, then stay small. Tenacity is I am ready to go the right course until I win. But tenacity is also when I see that this course is not going where I want it to go, I am ready to retreat. Sometimes the best military strategy is to retreat, to regroup. I wrote for Nation for 5 years, and then I took a sabbatical for a year. I started again 2 weeks ago. I took a sabbatical because I want to make sure that my thinking is fresh, that my thinking is not a continuation of last week's thinking. You know, I want to make sure that I am being authentic. You know, when you read great stories, the pyramids of Egypt, and I look at the pyramids, for the base of the pyramid is 13 football fields. And for 3,800 years, these are the tallest man-made structures on earth. That means, listen, for 3,800 years, nobody defeated the thinking of the people that built the pyramid. Nobody defeated their thinking. So my question, who were they benchmarking? Oh, is somebody hearing me? Who were they benchmarking? That means there is a level where I develop my mind to a point where I am operating outside that triangle, and then that's where you now get to the point where you appreciate the fact that imitation is the greatest tribute to innovation. When everybody begins to copy you. I like to swim. I go to Mombasa, get on a boat, and the boat goes way out into sea and stops, anchors. Then I come out and I begin to swim. And it is so silent, so quiet out there. The only sound is the water against my body. Then the question I ask all the time, where are the noisemakers? You know where they are? They are at the beach. They can't swim. So in business, whenever I hear the sound of competition, it means I have not gone out far enough. I need to go out more. Now, when I'm in the deep, if I'm going to meet anybody there, it's a different kind of person. It's a deep swimmer like myself. So guess what? I decided the beach and the deep have two different languages. The language in the beach is competition. The language in the deep is collaboration. So I said, who are the people I can partner with in the deep? What are the strategic partnerships we can form to take us where we want to go? Capacity. Another interesting thing about capacity that I need to highlight is the fact that we all know this, don't we? SWOT. Capacity will help you to interpret your SWOT accurately. Let me tell you a mistake a lot of organizations make. I've been doing what I'm doing right now with you, working with organizations, developing strategy for organizations, Fortune 500 companies and governments. I've been doing this since 1990. So I've seen a bit. And one big mistake a lot of organizations make is this. They think the SWOT is a static instrument. Let me give you an example you can all relate with. You all know Kenatco, isn't it? Now, when I first came to Kenya, very first time I came to Kenya, you know what? Kenatco, if you got to the airport, there were only two major taxis there. The London taxi and the Kenatco. Isn't it? How many people remember what cars Kenatco used to use those days? Mercedes. So Kenatco had the big cars. Okay? Now, if you were a salesperson for Kenatco, what would you pitch as one of our greatest strengths? Our cars, isn't it? This Mercedes, nobody else has this. So Kenatco is status. Then the price of fuel begins to go up, isn't it? It begins to go up. it begins to go up. Then suddenly you discover for the same price that it will cost me to fill this Mercedes 3.5 liter, I can fill 2 Toyotas. So suddenly, what has happened? What was a strength has now become what? Ooh. And then imagine if you built your strategy, key pillars in your strategy around your strengths. By the time the strength becomes a weakness, what happens to your strategy? It's in trouble. So capacity, when you build your capacity, you're able to interpret it well. Your capacity helps you get to a point. A lot of businesses have stayed small because things they should have embraced as opportunities, they rejected as threats. Are you hearing me? Things they should have seen as opportunities, they rejected as threats. A good example that I like to give is Yahoo. And I'm going to talk about that again because one of the key functions of leadership that I'm coming to now, you'll see. But Yahoo was the number one company most of us knew. Our first engagement with the internet, yes or no? Yes. Most of us, email was Yahoo or Hotmail in the early days. Yahoo had an opportunity to buy Facebook for $1 billion. They felt it was such a small thing. They didn't do it. Now, there were 2 young guys who worked with Yahoo who were agitating that there is more. We can do more. There is a new dimension. And instead of embracing it as an opportunity, they rejected it as a threat. How many of you remember Yahoo Messenger? That was the first time you're typing and you can see that your friend is typing, and then they had voice, they had video. Anyway, so these 2 young guys left Yahoo and they took Yahoo Messenger, and this was what they were always telling the company: we can take this thing to the next level. It has been on the desktop, it has been on the computer, we can put it on devices. So that's how they left, and they started WhatsApp. How many of you think of it that WhatsApp is like Yahoo Messenger, isn't it? They started WhatsApp, and WhatsApp was bought by the Facebook that Yahoo turns down. Facebook today is worth $500 billion, $500 billion, and they turned down. Now, WhatsApp was bought by Facebook for $19 billion. If you don't build your capacity, you will miss out on some of the greatest opportunities of your career, because you will see them as threats instead of opportunities. So when I'm telling you about building building capacity, that's what I'm talking about. Now, the number one attribute of leadership is not intelligence. It is relevance. The Oxford Dictionary defines relevance as how connected you are. How connected something is. Relevance is not a function of intelligence. Years ago, we had typewriters, and the people that made those typewriters were intelligent. Is their intelligence useful today? Absolutely not. So the question you need to ask yourself, how relevant are you? That is what determines your level of leadership. It is not because you are intelligent, it is not because you are present. It is because you are relevant, connected to. You have to be, as a leader, you have to be relevant or connected to the times you're living in. You have to be connected to people, relevant to people. Now that's internal and external. For more on this, if you can get a hold of the Saturday Nation, it's online. For last Saturday, the week before, I started a series on relevance there. And you can read more about that. So, if you are not relevant to the times you are living in, you will miss out. Let me give you a story. A lot of people are, especially when we look at our society today, There's a girl, 19-year-old girl. Her name is Kylie Jenner. A 21-year-old girl. Now, there's an application like Twitter called Snapchat. And Snapchat was not, they changed some of their functionalities. Do they have a right to change it? Yes. It is their company, isn't it? So they changed some of their functionalities. This 21-year-old girl said, I'm not happy with what you've done. Who cares about the opinion of a 21-year-old when you're a multi-billion-dollar company? But times have changed. This 21-year-old girl has a lot of followers. So she said, Snapchat is ugly. Who's using Snapchat anymore? I'm out. And because of the tweet of a 21-year-old girl, Snapchat lost in one day a value of $1.3 billion. Is somebody hearing me? How relevant are you to the time you're living in? You know, when we were younger, or when I was growing up, let me tell you, let me give you this. When I was growing up, if my mother cooked some food and I'm about to eat the biggest chicken and she just says, stop it, it's for your father. So you try another attempt, stop it, it's for your father. After you try a couple of times, you realize I cannot win this one, isn't it? But I console myself. I said, no problem. One day, I will become a father. Then let me see who can stop me. Now, can you imagine when you become a father? As you're about to take it, they say, stop it, it's for the children. Why am I saying this? If you're not relevant to the times, times have changed. Times have changed completely. The people, listen to this, you know, and my father was my late father was a professor of medicine, and he was a professor in the world, one of the world's best medical schools, Johns Hopkins. I used to tell him, I said, you know, if you practice medicine using only what you have learned in medical school, verily, verily, I say unto you, you will be a serial killer. Isn't it? Because everything has changed. And one of the challenges we will have, and just looking at all of you here, one of the challenges we will have as leaders is wanting to lead the way we were led. Isn't it? Wanting to lead the way we were led. Times have changed. When I was younger, when my boss says, come here, yes sir, sit down, yes sir, stand up, yes sir. Now, come here, why? Isn't it? They have questions for everything. My mom will say, do this. And you say, you have to do it. Now, if you try saying why with my mother, hey, her favorite verse in the Bible is that, thank you. Her favorite verse, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. Beat the child, he shall not die. You know? But if you try that today, they will say it's abuse. So times have changed, isn't it? So your ability to stay as a leader is directly connected with how relevant you are. How relevant you are. You know? And then again, how do you lead people who know more than you? Or am I the only one who has that problem? Am I the only one who has a problem of having to lead people who are more intelligent? Do you have that problem? Yeah. How do you lead them? My daughter is 18. That's my last born. And one day, I'm watching a show on television, Top Gear. And my phone rang, and I did not want to pick the phone because I didn't want to miss what I was watching. My daughter said, pick the phone. I said, I don't want to miss this. She said, but you can pause. I said, no, it's not DVD, it's television. So she looked at me and said, you can pause. I said, no, honey, you're not getting it. This is not a DVD. This is television. She said, you can even rewind. I said, no, you're getting it. So she began to laugh. So I went to take the call. When I came back, now you have to, let me put this in context. This is in my house. The television is mine. I bought it with my own money. The remote control is mine. The decoder is mine. Even the girl talking, she's telling me rewind, pause. And I say it is not television, it is not DVD, it is television. So I went, took my call. When I came back, my daughter took my remote control and just pressed something, and the picture just stopped. Hey! Then she pressed again and began to rewind. That's when the Niger in me came and said, Chineke. Now that is the challenge. How do you lead people who know more than you? You know why I'm happy? All of you have laughed at me right now. Meanwhile, in your office, there are people who are laughing at you right now, who have confirmed. They have confirmed. It's in Nairobi. Okay, they are laughing at you. Is somebody hearing me? And that's why I said capacity, audacity, tenacity. You must lead them. Let me tell you the advantage we have. Never forget, this is the advantage we have, and you can capitalize on it. They may know more than we know. Okay? But they may have more knowledge, but they are not as wise as we are. And let me explain. When I was writing my thesis many years ago, you'd go to the library, you have books. So if I want to study on one particular topic, the journey of getting to that topic, I have studied so many other things, isn't it? Today, if they want to study on anything, they just Google the word. Boom. I was laughing the other day. I said, people who go to church should stop all this Bible on phone. I said, go back to the original Bible. I said, because when I was young, if you are looking for the book of Hebrews, you will open different pages. Okay, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Ephesians. You have gone, the process builds your intelligence. Today, you just type Hebrews chapter 2, verse this, and it comes straight there. So there is no process. So they may know more than you do, but you are wiser. So you need to be confident in your wisdom and inspire them with your audacity, your tenacity, and your capacity. They can't argue with that. I have a policy. You don't hire brilliant people. Again, one of the things that will help you manage these young people, they are so crazy about expression. So we don't hire, back in the day, you hire brilliant people and then you tell them, this is how your thinking must go here. So even if they had great ideas, they cannot take you forward because their ideas are contained by the triangle you've put them in. So it's very important to have forums where the young people, the brilliant people you have brought in, hear them, and then make the decisions yourself. These are little things that will consolidate your position as a leader and keep you relevant. So what is my definition of relevance? It's the process of aligning your senses to present-day realities. The process of aligning your senses to present-day realities. Let me give you one reality just off the top of my head right now. Let's talk about customers. And I'm still having a segment that I'm going to talk about customers. But listen to this. The customer of before. The customer of before had certain attributes. That customer, I'm talking of the customer of before, he was ignorant. He was patient. And he had limited options. Isn't it? That's the customer of before. Now, the customer of today, guess what? He's knowledgeable, he's impatient, and he has unlimited options. Am I telling the truth? So now let me tell you where the problem comes. So, if you are a great leader with this customer, that means you're thinking, all your senses are aligned to the behavioral pattern of this customer. Yes or no? Now, the way you dealt with this customer, is that how you are going to deal with the new customer? The new customer is knowledgeable, he's impatient, and he has unlimited options. I've always said, there is nothing like once intelligent, always intelligent. There is nothing like once relevant, always relevant, and I dare say, are you ready? Nothing like once a leader, always a leader. The day you lose relevance is the day your leadership expires. There are people we know who are leaders of yesteryears, who are still alive, but nobody listens to them anymore. Isn't it? So what happens to once a leader, always a leader? So very, very crucial. And that's a question you need to now ask yourself. How are my senses aligned to the present day realities? Are my senses, people have defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over and having different results. We all know that. But let me give you Wale's definition of insanity. Using the intelligence of the past for the present and expecting things to change. Are you hearing me? Using the intelligence of the past for the present. And then you expect somehow things will go forward. It's not going to happen. Because you are dealing with a totally different environment, a totally different customer with a totally different mindset, totally different expectations. Absolutely different. Before, everything is different. I think I've made that point, isn't it? So, the job of leadership, if you want to stay a leader, is to continually develop capacity, audacity, tenacity to make sure that your senses are aligned to the present day realities, not the realities of yesterday. All right? Let me give you an example. This is a list of winners of 100 meters. The world record for 100 meters was Bob Hayes at 10.06 seconds. In June 68, it was Jim Hines for 10.03 seconds. Now, so here we can say Bob Hayes was the world leader, isn't it? But you know what? He held it for 4 years. Jim Hines became the leader. That one could not even hold it for 1 year. Charles Green became the leader. Then Jim Hines came to collect it back. This was in the same year. October 68. And then you go on. Right now, what do you notice about this number? It's decreasing. Isn't it? Then you now get here, it's decreasing. Until, and I checked it this morning, this record has not been broken by my cousin. Now, so you understand what I'm saying. That every day, and this is why I always say, records were made to be broken. Isn't it? So that is why you have to keep making sure your senses are aligned. If your senses were aligned to this reality, and you are creating things for this reality, and suddenly you have this reality, then you become obsolete. Isn't it? Henry Ford once said that if he asked his people what they wanted, he said they would have said, let's make faster horses. Nobody would have said cars. Faster horses, not cars. So you know what they would have done? They would have instituted a committee to study the process of the faster horse project. Then they'll have a subcommittee on feeding for faster horses. Another subcommittee for the equipment and infrastructure for faster horses, the saddles and the hooves and all that. Then they would have a day set aside to launch the faster horse program. And maybe they will call the president to launch or they call the chairman to launch the faster horse program. So as the chairman is riding on the faster horse, suddenly something goes past. Say, what is that? Say, oh, it's a car. Say, what is that? That's what happens. So, and I'm going to get to something now that I think will really help you. Dynamics of relevance. Number one is the circle of value. Is remember the painting I looked at the beginning? Now, it was valuable, but it was not valuable to you. So you'd have paid 500 shillings for it. So, what is your circle of value? Your relevance is tied to your value. It's not tied to your presence. All right? Your relevance is tied to your value. It's not tied to your presence. Now, your circle of value is how many people think you are valuable. How many people think you are valuable to them? That's your circle of value. Now, when people think you are valuable to them, then they will want to provide value for you. That's the way the world works, isn't it? When people think you are valuable to them, then they will listen to what you are saying. Let me tell you, when I lost money and I was finished completely, my phone, which used to ring non-stop, there was no difference between when it was on and when it was off. Nobody was calling. Why? Because my circle of value was shrinking. Are you hearing me? You know, there's a gentleman, I won't mention his name. He was in government, very powerful in government. And once when I went to his house, there were GSUs in front. There were so many people in their house, consulting firm from America. People that had come to see this gentleman. Then, of course, he was no more in government after a while. And I went to see him. There was nobody at the gate, just one askari there. And then when I pressed the doorbell, he opened the door himself. Then I understood this is why people like to stay in government. Are you hearing me? And that's why I think it's time maybe I should develop a program for life after government. But you see what happens is the circle of value. You have to make sure that your circle of value is expanding. And how do you constantly increase your circle of value? By building your capacity so that you are bringing solutions. Value is associated with solutions, not with your being present. Solutions. So what solutions are you bringing? And the solutions you are able to come up with depend on the capacity you have built. Okay? So your circle of value, is it shrinking or expanding? Your job is to make sure it is expanding. Constantly develop yourself, find out what is happening, add value to people, make sure you brand yourselves as solution providers. How do you know when you are solution providers? When your customers say thank you to you. You understand what I'm saying? You are providing solutions, you are helping their dreams to come to pass. You know, you brand yourself as a place where dreams come to pass. A place where, you know, people find solutions. As you do that, then your circle of value begins to increase. Okay? I've called this, like I told you, I named my thinking after myself. So, Wale's table of influence. Let me show you how that goes. That is comparing past, present, and future realities. So, you can take a time frame, 2000 to 2010. Okay? So take a time frame there. You take 2000 to 2005. 2005 to 2010. 2010 to 2015. 2015 to date. Now, why is this important? Then you now look at so you're comparing past and present realities. So you're looking, you can take an aspect of the business. Say, since we've talked about customer, let's talk about customer, we can talk about technology. So different areas, you do the customer, you do technology, so let's look at technology. And then we're looking at the realities. Okay? Looking at realities. So that's technology. Here you can have customer. So tech realities, customer realities. Maybe you have communication realities, and so forth. And this just helps you. So you ask yourself, in 2000 to 2005, what were the technological realities that were there? You put it there. 2005, what are the technological realities? What were the customer realities? Then you now ask yourself, how do I align my senses? So here, so you do for each one, then you now have what I call sense alignment. So you understand the customer reality of 2000